Hello ladies and gentlemen, Xcentor here and welcome back to another YouTube video. Now in today's YouTube video we're going to be comparing the Boeing 787-900 to the Airbus A330-900 in infinite flight. Now I did a little bit of googling before recording this video and it says that the Airbus A330 is mainly intended to compete with a few Boeing aircraft, so it's meant to compete with the smaller Boeing 777s and the 787s, and it mentioned the 767, but I've decided to go for the 787-900 and the A330-900 neo for this comparison infinite flight, as they are quite comparable according to Google. Now we're not only going to compare them as aircraft, we're going to compare them as what they actually are in infinite flight based off of the quality and which aircraft is best for you to use. Now apparently, or according to Google, both aircraft have a cockpit crew of 2, and with capacity, the 787 has a capacity of 209 if it's got 2 classes, or 406 if it has a single class cabin, whilst the A330-900 can only take 260 if it's got 2 class, or 420 if it's single class. Which means that by the looks of that, for a single class cabin, the A330-900 has more. Now the exit limit of 420 and 460, I have no idea what that means, but the 787 has a 420 exit limit and the A330 has a 460 exit limit, so not quite sure what any of these stuff mean, but we're all learning. Now this aircraft in infinite flight, so we'll look at the aircraft and then I'll give you a bit of facts every now and again, but this aircraft has a phenomenal cockpit. Now this is one of my favourite aircraft in infinite flight. I think it's definitely underrated and it's not spoken about too much as an aircraft, I'm just going to check the audio as well. So the aircraft itself is lovely. It's got a few little Easter eggs like that in here. I don't know if the pen is the Easter egg in here. It looks like there's a lanyard or a tie or something there. I can't see my pilot. So the aircraft itself, it's got a live cockpit, really good. It's got a fabulous interior cabin, I think, if I remember correctly. I mean, we're gonna, ignore that bit there, and we're gonna tie and bind die. But this bit here is quite a good interior cabin, for how the interior cabin is in for flight. This is probably one of the smoothest and cleanest. I don't think there's TVs on these. Oh, with this. Faint stickers. There's not exactly TVs on these, but for how interior cabins go in infinite flight, they're not, the best in the world, and I'll be honest with that, and I'm pretty sure quite a few people would be able to admit that it's not the best in the world, but they are pretty good. They are pretty good. It's not a full cabin, you'd probably lag out of a full cabin, but the aircraft itself is very good. Now I love how the engines are in this aircraft as well. They're just so slick and smooth. Just look at that shot there. That'd be a great photo, I think. But the aircraft itself, it's good. Now the detail on the gear, again, it's okay, it's meh. Now the A330-900, it has a wingspan of 210 foot or 64 meters. So that's quite big, it's quite big. And a cabin width of 17.3 inches, which isn't as wide as the 18 foot cabin width of the 787-900. So the cabin's a little bit tighter, and it has more people in it as well. So that's a little bit concerning. Maybe it's a tighter fit. Now, it also does have a smaller range than the 787-900, having only a range of 7,200 nautical miles, about 13,300 kilometers, whereas the 787-900 has a range of 7,635 nautical miles, or about 14,100 kilometers. So still a very long range, so we can just look at the weight. So this aircraft can fly for 24 hours. So I could easily do a flight around the world in this thing. It has a long flight time, so it's a big aircraft. Now we're just going to fly it quickly in infinite flight, and we're going to see, how smooth it is to handle and how much I like how it handles. So let's do a takeoff, shall we first? Why not? Let's just bring our flaps down while we're rolling as well, and we should probably bring down the weight and balance a bit. There we go. So we'll just start rolling. I'm going to bring down my flaps now. If someone could let me know in the comment section what you're meant to use for trim on takeoff on this aircraft. I usually just have a general rule where I have about 15 to 16 on any aircraft. We'll use 14 today just in case I've got it too high or too low. So we're just checking everything's all good. Now I can bring out, oh right, so you can bring out eating trays and that, which is really cool. Oh, it's got a checklist on it as well. That's quite fancy. I didn't know we had these checklists and that. I wasn't aware of that. If anyone knew you could do that, let me know. That was really cool. So we're just rolling down the runway. Just taking a little while. The aircraft feels a little bit like a 747, or it's a bit heavy sometimes at the moment, but it's still moving quite nice, so we are able to rotate. I'm trying to rotate, just get airborne. There we go, no tail strike. And that tilted gear is lovely. We'll bring those gear up and look at that transition. Now we aren't going up very steep, and we are making a few turns. So I'm going to try and make a left turn and see how easy that is. So the aircraft feels heavy. It feels big, and it feels like a big heavy aircraft. Now maybe the 787, when we hop in that in a minute, won't feel as big or heavy. But we'll do a quick short final now and see how hard a landing is in this. And I'm gonna give it a go like this and see how well I go. Probably not too well. Actually, I'm gonna just do it like this. Yeah, we'd never land otherwise. We'll go back to short final. So I am cheating using the HUD because like I said, I don't fly this aircraft very often, so I'm not quite too sure how to handle it with just the live cockpit. That'll take a little bit of practice, but we can try and get that smooth landing, because this is literally the butter queen in infinite flight. That wasn't very smooth in the end, unfortunately, so we just hopped to takeoff. Yeah, that wasn't a very smooth landing now, was it? So this aircraft itself, though, as a general aircraft, is really big and really good. Now we're gonna go into the 787-900. Now, what livery should I choose? Great thing. We don't have much livery options in infinite flight. Like I said, the A330-neo has well, not as many either, actually. But the 787-900 has lots. And I'm just going to point this out. The Dash 8 has loads of liveries now. I don't remember it having all of these liveries. So if this is new, can someone let me know, please? So we've got the 787. We'll go in the Air Norwegian Air Shuttle. I don't fly this very often. I was going to do a flight in it the other day. And I sort of bailed on myself and didn't. I don't know why. I'm a bit annoyed at that. So this aircraft in infinite flight looks lovely. Now, it doesn't have the same passenger capacity, but it's got a better you know, cabin width and everything though. So it is better in width and comfort. It's also got a better range and fuel efficiency. So many of you may know that Qantas a few years ago opened a route going from Perth to London, I believe, London Heathrow, and they also do air Tahiti's 16-hour non-stop flight between Tahiti and Paris, which was the world's longest domestic flight at the time, which was indeed on the 787-900. So if you're doing ultra long hauls, this is your aircraft. Now, it's a really cool aircraft. So we'll have a look at it. Now, the cockpit is not the standard of the A330neo. The A330neo is a newer aircraft in for flights, so, you know, it's bound to be better. It was always going to be better. However, the 787, when you fly it, it feels like a queen. Now, there is no interior cabin, of course, but I've got to just show you guys how this aircraft flies, because if I remember correctly, this is a lovely aircraft to try and fly in infinite flight. So we'll use the HUD mode again. We'll go into a short final. Now, I've always found this a really nice and a really easy aircraft to fly. Now, in general, I think if you think of it from maybe a pilot's perspective, it might be a nicer one to fly. So that was quite a nice landing as well. And I really like the way the aircraft looks. Now, I know aesthetics aren't exactly something you should always bring up when comparing aircraft, but this aircraft just looks amazing, and I really do love the way the 787 looks. Now, it's a cool aircraft in general. It's cheaper as well in general than the 787, than the A330, only having a price of 281.6 million, where the A330neo, it has a price of $296.4 million. Now, the 787 is also in much higher demand, and it's had much more orders and deliveries. Not to say that in the future the A330 will have more, even though, you know, it's a bit of a later one. Now, airlines love both aircraft. Now, it's a bit hard to decide which aircraft is better, as it's quite subjective. But if you were to ask me, I'm not too sure. I'll let you know in a second after we do a takeoff. But in infinite flight, if you're an infinite flight user and you're thinking, I'm going to do a long flight and I want to fly from, I don't know, Los Angeles to South Africa, to Cape Town in South Africa. Now, that's a long flight. And I'd be thinking to myself, okay, well, what aircraft do I want to take? Now, the first thing I'd do is I wouldn't take an A380 or a 777. I'd be thinking along the lines of the 787-900 and the A330. Now, the way I'd decide is I'd look at this and I feel like Okay, well the A330 has got a live cockpit, it's got a good interior cabin, and it's got a bigger range, I imagine. Yeah, it's got a better range than the 787 in for flight. However, the 787 offers quite a lot of good things in for flight. It's a nice aircraft to land, it's very user friendly. Even though it's missing the interior cabin, it's got a great cockpit still, even though it's not live. And if you're someone like me, and you're not very good at using that live cockpit, then this might be a good aircraft, because you can just fly it like this. You can still use the cockpit view without feeling stupid, and it's very good, and it's a very nice plane to fly with physics. You know, you can do, especially for long haul flights, you can go up vertical. I don't know what the takeoff's called again. It's just like an ultra steep takeoff like this, and you can get as high as you need to get that best fuel efficiency as required. Now, Brussels Airport as well, looking really good there. So if you were to ask me, I think if I were doing a long flight like that, I would probably take the 787. Even though it's an older aircraft, I think it's the aircraft I'd be taking. Even though the A330neo is a fabulous aircraft, and let's not shoot it down, I would also take it on a long flight like this, but I think I would prefer to have the 787. Now, if you guys agree with anything I'm saying, let me know. If you disagree, I'd love to know even more. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Good night.